I get asked all the time what the secret is to being a great leader. And today we're going to talk about the things that I believe are inherently leadership characteristics. And there's 4 of them. And I'm going to share those today. Today is a very special episode. This episode happens to be our 300th recording. That's right, 300. And I went back and forth on what the topic of our 300th episode was. And I finally settled on the fact that the secret to being a great leader is something that I've been chasing my whole life. And today I want to speak directly to the leader out there who keeps showing up. You keep caring. You keep trying. Even when your team may be shrinking and the pressure continues to rise. Because if you got into leadership, or you're thinking about getting into leadership for the credit, for the notoriety, to get all the glory, to be the one to tell others what to do, you may want to rethink being a leader. And today, I want to speak to those leaders out there that continue to work behind the scenes, that continue to put the team before themselves. To those leaders out there who never get the credit for the work, but they take all the blame. Because the truth is, effort doesn't always feel like progress. I can't tell you how many times that I've shown up to work and you can put your head down and you can work really, really hard sometimes. And it still feels like you're spinning your wheels. That's what leadership is. Leadership sometimes is just getting in the mud and trying to figure out what's next, trying to figure out what the priority is, trying to figure out maybe how I can lead us out of this challenge. It's choosing courage over perfection. And I want to remind everybody out there that leadership is still worth it. There's a lot of times people ask me, John, I don't know how you do what you do. You put everything into work, you put everything into your family, you put everything into the challenges, the projects, everything that you do to people. And the funny thing is, I don't feel that myself. I actually feel the exact opposite. I feel like I don't give enough. I feel like sometimes I have failed the team. I have failed in, being a father, being a son, being a brother. And failure is just a feeling. And I have to realize that when you look at the bigger picture of what we're really here for, what we're blessed to do, what I think boils down, and it helped me identify these 4 secrets that we're going to talk about today, is it's not about us. It's not about me as a leader. It's about getting others to where they want to be. And that's going to be the focus for today's 300th episode. I struggled. I really did. You wouldn't think that I recorded 299 episodes before this, because it was almost like the pressure for the 300th. I had to make it perfect and everything had to be right. I went back and forth. Do I do like a review of, all the episodes prior to this, or do I look forward? Do I, give you the rundown of how John got to where John's at? I I just it was hard. And I finally, through a lot of thought, through some prayer and some self-reflection, and I'll tell you, it was about 35 minutes ago, to be exact, when I was cold plunging after a workout today, that this came to me. And this is unscripted. This is off the cuff. This is really raw emotion and feelings that I want to share with you today. And it's something that I probably should have been doing all along. And it's not that the 299 episodes before this one were based on outlines and themes and, every single one of those episodes are my experience, but this one is me. This one is the raw, uncut way that I see leadership. And the secret behind being a great leader is ongoing. I'm still chasing the great leader title. Because just like I said earlier, every time that you lead a group of individuals, a team, and you're working towards a goal, whatever that goal may be, to grow a business, to help others, to maybe look to, just make money. I think a lot of people, a lot of leaders get into leadership because it's a raise. It's a more money. It's a way for them to reach status or get some type of status. And this first secret that I want to share. Hey everyone, a quick break in the episode today. Are you struggling to find and keep the right employees? You're not alone. High turnover drains time, money, and morale, leaving us frustrated, overwhelmed, and feeling like we have to settle for less. I understand how tough hiring can be because I've lived it. And with over 21 years of building high-performance teams, I know how to turn hiring challenges into lasting employee success. Through my proven lead framework, we're going to analyze your processes, design a personalized strategy, and implement solutions that create confident and long-term results. Don't let turnover hold you back. Choosing this program is that first step towards a thriving workplace. Enroll today at thejohnespinosa.com and build the team you deserve. Imagine a team that works seamlessly together or keep facing the same costly cycle of turnover. The choice is yours. Now back to our episode. And before we get into that, I got asked the other day, when did you know you were a leader? When was the first time that, you can go back and put your finger on when you just knew you were a leader? And I think the earliest memory that I have leading a team, leading others, being an example in my leadership style is very much I lead by my behavior, my example. I'm not a big hoorah. I'm not going to always be out front leading a team if I don't have to be. And it was high school football. I got voted as the team captain, one of the team captains. I was play caller on defense. And it was the very first time that I felt like a leader. It was probably a moment in my life that I can still go back to. And I still talk to many of those brothers today. And they still talk about, some of the things that they remembered. And a lot of them was me calling plays, the way that I used to have this really gruff voice. And I never gave up. My motor, I ran 100 miles an hour. I was always at practice. I never skip. And I begin to think about what that meant to them. Like my actions were things that I believed was just the right way to show up and to be a team player. I didn't really see those as leadership characteristics. And I think that's where we need to start with this first secret. It really is centered around being a good listener. And I always thought that the higher you went up in a company, and when you were a business owner, when you became a business owner, you were an entrepreneur, you got a team, you were promoted up through the ranks, that you needed to be the one that was always talking, that you needed to be the one that always had the answer, that's what leadership was. And what I found was drastically different. And I've worked with organizations that have leaders that just can't get out of their own way. They sit in a meeting and they'll ask a question, then they'll answer their own question. And it's very interesting to me to see that from leaders in large 500 plus organizations, employee organizations, all the way down to, an organization that has maybe 5 employees. In listening, I always ask myself, am I the most interested person in this conversation? And that conversation could be one-on-one, or it could be with others, a team of folks, or it could be, giving a presentation. Or am I the most interesting? And there's a time and place to be the most interesting person in the room. Maybe if you're telling jokes, maybe if you're on stage and you're delivering a keynote, you want to capture people's attention. So you definitely want to be interested. But if you are having a conversation and you're leading people, I have found that truly listening, like sitting back in listening to other people's thoughts, ideas, being comfortable with the silence. A lot of times we get into meetings, we ask a question or a question is asked, and that silence can just feel like it goes on and on and on. It can feel like it's a eternity. And for me, I got into this posture of getting out of my own way. I got into a posture of making sure that I was the most interested person at the table. And I did that through a lot of self-reflection into my own mind, because a lot of times when somebody is talking, we are automatically formulating a response. We're automatically coming up with an answer to that question. And for me, I had to shut that off. It was like that mental hand raise. And we've been conditioned to do that all throughout elementary school. I can remember sitting at a desk and being told to raise your hand if you had a question, or being told to raise your hand if you had something to say. And as soon as you were called, you better ask that question, or you better say what you were going to say. That's what's carried on with us all throughout our adult lives, to the point where now we're raising that mental hand in our head when somebody is talking. We're listening to respond. We're not listening to be curious or to really want to understand. So the first secret that I wanted to share with you today of being a great leader is listening. How do you listen to others when they are speaking? Are you listening to respond, or are you listening to understand? And every single time you get into a conversation, ask yourself, Are you the most interesting person in this conversation, or are you the most interested person in the conversation? And it really begins to change your mindset around how you communicate and how you conversate, how you enter conversations, how you get to know people. And what I learned is through listening, you gain more influence. Influence is increased by trust in relationship building. And if it's a one-way conversation, there's not a lot of relationship building. And if you can't build a relationship as a leader, you can't establish the trust that you're going to need when the times get tough, when that challenge comes, to say, hey, listen, trust me, trust us, trust the team, trust each other. We're going to get through this. That's established through listening, gaining trust, and establishing that firm foundation that you as a leader can go back to when times get tough. So listening, that's the first secret. Let's talk about the second one here. And this one has to do with, I came up with the word envision. And as a leader, as a young leader, I really was just looking for direction. It was like drinking from a fire hose. I had older individuals that I was leading, more experienced, more senior in the organization, had been there a lot longer. And, I just happened to raise my hand and volunteer to become a team lead at that time. And what that did was it propelled me into a situation to where people were coming to me for what's next. Hey, John, where we're going? What do I need to do to get there? And for me, it was pretty scary. I'm not going to lie, because at that time, I was just learning the organization. I knew what my job was. I was pretty dang good at what I did. That's why they hired me. But what I didn't understand was the fact that I needed to learn more. I needed to know more about people and their instinctive nature to have a direction to go to move towards. And when I talk about envisioning what the future looks like, this is exactly what the secret has to do with. A really great mentor of mine, very early in my career, said, John, leadership is like a jigsaw puzzle. 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle gets dumped on your desk every single morning. And they take the picture away that you would normally use to put that jigsaw puzzle together. So how do you put that puzzle together? You have to envision what it looks like just by looking at individual pieces, corner pieces, straight-edged pieces. But you can kind of tell a little bit with the colors and how they come together. And that's exactly what you're doing with your team. Because again, we don't have all the answers. And we're not supposed to. Choosing courage over perfection means that we're going to be vulnerable enough to admit when we don't have all the answers. I need help. That raised hand that, hey, I need help understanding whatever it is. Maybe what this picture looks like over here on the right side of the puzzle, because that's something that I'm unfamiliar with. But again, the goal, the vision, is to put this puzzle together. And each one of those puzzle pieces have strengths, have weaknesses, have a fit within the overall picture of the puzzle that as a leader, you need to be able to cast that vision. You need to be able to allow people to understand where they're going. You don't have to figure it all out how to get there step by step by step, but you definitely have to have that moonshot vision, I call it, I get that from Tony Robbins. He talks about having a vision big enough for everybody on your team to fit into that vision, to fit their visions into your vision. Because if you have somebody on your team that has a bigger vision than what your moonshot vision is, it's time to get bigger. It's time to think bigger. It's time to get more uncomfortable. And when we see an end, a means to an end, sometimes we get too comfortable. Sometimes that vision is a place where we center around, we get comfort in. And what it does, it creates complacency. When we become comfortable, when you as a leader become comfortable, just getting by, everything's working. We got all the processes in place. We have all the systems that we need. That's when the hair on the back of my neck sticks up. That's when I begin to start looking around and saying, okay, are we dreaming big enough? Is our dream big enough? Because people will grow if you give them the fuel, the fertilizer, the resources. They will grow. People will also stay complacent if you, as the leader, stop dreaming. If you stop envisioning what the future looks like. If you stop envisioning what the individual puzzle pieces begin to start not fitting together anymore. And that picture that you're putting together begins to fade. So envisioning what the future of your organization, what your team, what your company looks like is powerful when it comes to becoming a great leader. So that's the second secret. Let's talk about the third. The fourth one, you got to wait around because this one is going to culminate everything. It's going to bring everything together. But this third one, I found it to be a secret that, when used, can take a small team or a large team and propel them to greatness. And the secret is alignment. When we have alignment within organizations, within teams, we are able to do things, to accomplish even things that we would not even believe were achievable in ways that I can't even explain. People get united, or when they are united, around a common vision and they get into an alignment. I'm not saying they all do the same thing. That's not alignment. I'm not saying everybody listens to one person. I'm talking about when you have organizations, if you're a larger company and you have the customer service organization, the marketing organization, your IT organization, all within alignment, it feels like a speeding train. Like you are unstoppable. Vice versa, if you have misalignment and people are going one way or they're going the other, I call them bipolar organizations. Bipolar organizations breed frustration, breed confusion, breed complacency. And in the end, they breed a lot of turnover because people, if they're not aligned, if they don't feel like what they're doing in their individual job and then how that feeds into the bigger team and the bigger, even the organization, it's just this human nature that we start to question. We start to question, do we belong here? Is this the right place for us? Am I the right fit for this job? And that's all created through alignment. One of the ways that I've seen organizations maintain alignment is through just weekly check-ins. I was told when I took one of my manager's positions that I had too many meetings on my calendar. And when I met with my senior leader in the organization, he said, "John, you don't need all these meetings. You need to delegate. You need to step back. And you need to let them do what they do best." And I told him, I said, "I agree with 2 out of the 3 things that you just said." And he kind of looks at me and I said, "The one thing that I found great success in is communicating consistently. And those weekly meetings that you see on my calendar, those are the one-on-one conversations that I have with my direct reports." And I asked, if I don't understand what's bothering them, could be work-related, it could not be work-related, the challenges that they have, or maybe just have a conversation around, hey, how are things going? How am I going to ensure that we have alignment and we're working towards the same goal? And he looked at me and he said, "You know what? You're right." And it wasn't about being right for me. It was about doing what I felt was important. And that those conversations were very important to me as a leader. And it wasn't about micromanaging. It wasn't about trying to be in the weeds. It was more about creating relationships. Because if you don't have a relationship, going back to listening and building that trust, building that firm foundation, when things go out of alignment, they just start out as small cracks in your foundation. And those cracks begin to get bigger. Or other cracks start to show up. And it's not one single crack that breaks organizations. It's the combination of those cracks. When one side of your foundation falls. And then we ask ourselves, why didn't I see this? What could I have done as a leader? And it boils down to alignment. It boils down to making sure that we understand what alignment looks like within our teams, and when we become misaligned, what that looks like as well. And so secret number 3, secret number 3, we're going to get to 4, is alignment. Let's talk about the last one here. This one was a little bit difficult to me because I had a lot of mixed feelings about what to name it. And I settled on drive. And the reason why I settled on drive is you can have all 3. You can listen, you can understand, you can build that trust. You can make sure that you're envisioning a future for the organization. You're communicating that. You can make sure that there's alignment within the team. But if you can't motivate, if you can't inspire, if you can't drive the team in that direction, what happens is you have a Corvette engine in a VW Bug body. You have this superpower of just high intensity, high power, high horsepower, vision, mission, organization, perfect alignment. But that will stall out if you don't have the infrastructure, the wheels, the tires, and you're not putting oil in the machine to get there. And that's what drive is all about. So the fourth secret is drive. How do we drive an organization? We drive the organization through being able to create momentum and sustain that momentum in a healthy way. I've seen organizations create momentum, I've seen it sustain momentum, and I've seen unhealthy ways that leaders sustain momentum. It could be cash awards, could be money, monetary, one. It could be working a tremendous amount of hours for a long time. It could even look like living on motivation. And the reason I differentiate motivation from momentum is because motivation is in the short term. Momentum is what we create long term. And the example there I always give is, you have first of the year weight loss goals, and your motivation lasts around 13 days. In that 14th day, you wake up and you're like, man, this is hard. This is tough. I might just go back to what I was doing 13 days ago. And that's what happens. But if you have momentum, if you take that motivation and make it long term and you create momentum out of those motivating tasks, now what you're doing is you're driving the organization to that vision that you've created. And you do that through alignment, and you do that through making sure that you're listening along the way, getting that feedback all along the way. And so driving a team to achieve a goal, to reach the top of the hill, is something that leaders, good leaders, great leaders, are able to do over and over and over again. Organizations that have leaders that listen, envision, align, and drive, those are the organizations that people choose to work for. Those are the organizations that you look at, and many of you lead those organizations, many of you buy from those organizations, many of you want to be a part of organizations that have leaders that embody these four secrets. And it is no mystery to me why. It doesn't confuse me why somebody would want to be a part of an organization that has a leader that's willing to put the team before themselves. This is why consistency matters more than capacity. This is why choosing courage over perfection still works. And this is why leadership is still worth it. I hope that these secrets you see in yourself. 299 episodes ago, I started this podcast on a dream, on a whim, on just pure adrenaline, pure motivation. And at episode 300, I can tell you that it hasn't been easy. I've gone through all the emotions. I've gone through all the challenges that teams go through. We've been up and down. We've created momentum. We've lost momentum. But remember, the truth is that effort doesn't always feel like progress. And the unseen work that you're doing out there as a leader, you may never get credit for. But just know this, I see you. Others out there see you. Who do you see? A lot of times, leaders go unnoticed. So I'm going to challenge you. Make it a point the next time that you see a leader who embodies these four secrets, who's out there leading in a way that you appreciate, give them a kudos. Tell them thank you. It's going to make their day, I just know it. I believe in you. Stick with us because we're just getting started. We got a whole lot more to share, a whole lot more value to give. And one thing that just makes me full of joy and happiness is every day I learn something new. Every day my leadership journey gets better. Thank you for listening. Talk to you on the next episode. Go be great. Bye-bye.